special.
But we met in real life in Malaysia, and this is why I'm absolutely thrilled that you've come on as a guest for Sexy Aging Podcast. I've had you on my list for like a year, and probably actually got in touch with you about a year ago.
I know,
Right?
I have been terrible. Yeah.
No, I think it's just things ebb and flow, and in your
Yeah.
situation, we're going to hear your story, but you've been between countries and obviously
Yeah.
incredibly busy as a professional athlete. Claire and I, for the listeners, yes, welcome to Sexy Aging. Claire, you are sexy and you represent health and wellness beautifully for women in midlife. But where we met was in Kuala Lumpur. We were both expatriates there. You were, from what I remember, a kick-ass runner, and you're all about running, and you would run into our fitness clubs. They were called Fire Station at the time, and join us for some workouts, and you just brought this incredible glow and energy into the club. And then it's like, I know a good person when I see one to be a great trainer. So just your energy and everything that you had, and we bonded over spin workouts.
Yeah.
So you were one of the very first OG ride instructors for Fire. Your classes blew up. They were hot. I'm using all the puns now. And we bonded so much over music, right? Because one of the
Yeah.
factors
Big
that we
time.
believe
Big
that
time.
makes a great ride class or spin workout is
Yeah.
it's all about the music. I mean, of course, the instructor and the way you build a community is like vital, but you've got to have that thumping beat that drives the energy, and then you layer your energy on top. And so we just had the best time.
We
Yeah.
did. We did.
And
It
you're
was
still
amazing.
teaching spin classes today. I'm so happy to see that.
Yeah, honestly. So no, I mean, thank you. That's very, lovely words as always, Tracy. But honestly, it is you are who I need to thank and I continually thank on a daily basis for helping me, not even helping me, but presenting this amazing opportunity. So obviously, my background was I was a marketer. Obviously, first from university, went to a law firm, and then I was a marketeer for many years. Had a great marketing career. You're absolutely right. Running has always been my passion. That was always been my go-to. Even I've always enjoyed sport. Always been very enjoyed sport at school. Being part of the teams, whether it's sort of hockey or netball, whatever. But I always enjoyed running and got into it in my teen years, actually, late teens, I'd say, and was always my go-to. So. And I did a couple of marathons, but nothing like I took part, I
Mm.
really enjoyed it. And then obviously moved to Malaysia. I had to give up my marketing career because we moved as a family. And we've actually moved to the Czech Republic first. So we did 3 years in the Czech Republic, which was amazing. And then obviously moved on to KL. And then this amazing, Fire Station was you guys had just opened, and that was an absolute lifesaver for me. I just moved. I was really missing a community, and I walked in the door and just felt so at home. And then we then connected, and it was just amazing. So I still feel the Fire Station sits up there for me. It's just very, very, very special place, and will always be. And then and the wonderful people that I met along the way,
Yeah.
as
It was
trainers.
just a party vibe as well, right?
Oh,
So
it's
party on the
amazing.
bike, party in the studio. Oh, now let's party outside. It was so
I
good.
know.
Yeah.
I know. It was. Yeah, no, it was. And just the setup of the studio. But as you say, connecting over music is massive. You and I have very, very similar taste. And
Douche,
and
douche, douche, douche.
it is literally,
In case people are
literally. And
thinking, what kind of music do they like? Yes, anything with
no, I
hard,
know.
heavy beat, slightly on the techno EDM side, but a
Yeah,
house, and
absolutely.
yeah.
I'm massively into my drum and bass as well. That list is literally, oh my God. Yeah. Literally could do a whole class just hamming out some drum and bass, but I just can't be loud enough. Literally can't have it loud enough.
I
Yeah.
wholeheartedly agree. And so now you are, from what I understand, you're living between two countries, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
Dubai and the UK. How's that
yes.
working
So
out?
So I have to say it's I'd say now more UK. So yeah, it was obviously COVID. So I've got two teenage boys who are 80, well, nearly about to turn 18 and 16. And actually it was when we were in Dubai that my eldest, when he was 13, sort of said, look, you know, how long are we going to be here for? Can I get through my GCSEs? And actually we weren't sure how long we were going to be there for. So he came back to the UK to a boarding school. So at the time, you know, so my husband was traveling. He always has a travel job. So I had to stay in Dubai with the youngest. So I started this sort of a little bit of toing and froing back then. And then actually my youngest said, well, actually, when he turned 13, I want to head back too. I think they've traveled the world. They've been very lucky. We've had an amazing time, but they wanted to have understand where their roots were, and they wanted to understand sort of where they came from, really, and build. And I really respect that. So, and that was at the beginning of COVID. So I sort of came back here thinking I'd settle my youngest into school and then to and fro, and then COVID hit and we got locked down. So I have been toing and froing as soon as we sort of started to be allowed to travel again. But I definitely spend more of my time in the UK now and get out to buy, you know, as much as I can. I have amazing community of people out there. So yeah, it's a very special place, and just a training playground for triathlon and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, that brings us on to the big thing that we want to talk about. So in the time that you've moved away from Malaysia, you've gone really wholeheartedly into triathlon and Ironman as well, Iron Woman in this case. In actual fact, Clare, freaking Clare, you are now part of Team GB as a masters athlete. Like, how incredible is that? Right?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I didn't see that coming. I have to say, a few years back.
We might have.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. It was. Do you know what? It's one of those things. So, I sort of dabbled a little. You know, when I was in Malaysia, I obviously loved my cycling and stuff in Malaysia, and I think I did a couple of triathlons and stuff. But really, when I moved to Dubai, one of the gyms that I worked at actually was was a big element of the gym that was into triathlon. And one of the guys working there said, I think you should have a go at triathlon. And I was like, no, you know, running, just not really, it's running, spinning, all the other, you know, workout, you know, I was teaching TRX and this, that, and the other. And he's just like, no, I think you should give me 3 months, have a go. So I entered a few races and seemed to work out quite well.
You won. You know, podium finish every single time. Yeah, I love it. I just love it. It just lights me up to see that you just went for it, and how well you're doing. It's just so inspirational, this story, because it's quite a late start for triathlon, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, you
totally.
carry on, because it's awesome.
No, well, it was, as you say, it was sort of probably kicked off, you know, in my 40s. So yeah, no, so we obviously then that moved on to then, and I immediately just jumped straight into doing Ironman 70.3s, which so I've done 6 of those to date. 4 I actually did, I did 4 in 1 year actually. I've just looking back. So just loved it, you know, it's a real challenge. And actually it's transitioning out of, I think the major change was, you know, back when I used to run or do half marathons or marathons back in my, say, 20s or even 30s, it was more a case I was taking part. I was pushing myself, but not to the kind of level that I started to push myself, you know, and literally you get into a whole different mindset and pain space, really. I mean, it's literally just, you know, it's all, you know, it's not going to be pretty from the beginning to the end, and it's accepting that it's going to hurt the whole way, and it's just got to go with it. So but yeah, so I'm sorry, to answer your question about the Team GB thing, so it's like it's all, you know, I did some Ironman, and then actually someone said to me, actually, if you're going to head back to the UK and spend more time there, you should really try and get into Team GB, because you have to do the qualification races here in the UK. So last year I set myself a goal very quietly to myself. I'm going to have a crack at this. So I rocked up to a couple of qualification races, and they seem to go okay. So I managed to qualify for 4 races this year for Team GB, which is great. So over a whole different range of distances. So that's been amazing. And I've traveled all over the world this year so far.
So it's just so cool. I think the big message here is that for women in your 40s and beyond, it's like that nothing's really off the table. I think you just set the goals that are meaningful to you, and whether it's a triathlon, Ironman, or to do some other kind of event, it doesn't have to be at that level. I think it's really just going, you know, this is my body, it can move, and it lights me up in this way, so I'm gonna set the goal here and just see where it goes. I think we're also in that mindset of being accepting of the wins and the losses a lot better, right?
I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head. I'd say that's probably been my motto of show up and see what happens. I literally just have that whenever I have any nerves about a race or anything, I just say, show up, see what happens. Because it's just, and actually that's a great, I try and for anything in life, isn't it really? Just, you know, show up and see what happens. Don't try and predict what could or couldn't happen or who else is there or what anyone else is doing. Forget everyone else. Just, there's something that you want to have a crack at, give it a go. And, you know, you're never going to regret trying something, right? And ultimately it leads to learnings or a really exciting journey, or, you know, there are so many benefits from it. So I absolutely agree. If there's, just get out there and give it a shot, and just grab any opportunity, I think too, that comes your way. I think it's a juggle for, you know, we're all juggling a lot, aren't we? So it's, you know, we're all juggling a lot of balls in the air. And there's often a lot of easy ways you can find, oh no, I can't do this, I can't do that, but just do it. Just do it. Get out the door and do it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love it. I love your messages. And you mentioned the word challenges and balls in the air. So this is actually one of the things when, you know, you've got the triathletes that don't have dependents, right? They are self-focused. They're just getting started. They're probably top of their game, and all they have to think about is themselves and getting themselves training, eating, sleeping, physio, and they can just line out their whole day for themselves. Now, you have 2 boys, you have a husband who travels, and yet you're still performing on the world stage at the level that you are. Are there, other than those challenges that I've highlighted, the fact that you have other dependents, so you're not solely focused on your own training, what other kinds of challenges exist for sort of someone at the elite athlete level when you're in your 40s as a woman?
So I think obviously, so you've mentioned time and juggling, and I think, you know, exactly one of the main reasons we're here to discuss is the change in our bodies, you know, and the change in, I mean, it's really interesting that some of the strongest age groups for women are the 40 plus, because I think we've been through a lot of shit, let's face it, you know, whatever it is, you know, and we have a sense of hardiness, resilience, wisdom. We've had setbacks, we've had knockbacks, we've had to get up, all of that kind of stuff. And there's something about, especially with an endurance sport, so specific, I'm talking about, that, you know, that you sort of need, you know, sort of, you need to grit your teeth and dig in. So it's a very, very competitive field in the 40 plus women, actually. But yeah, I mean, with that, it is that we change, right? You know, we change, and the change in hormones. So I mean, if you want us, we can, I don't know if you want me to dive into
let's go.
Let's dive in. So
let's go.
So it's you know, for me, I was, you know, I'm still got very regular periods. I know I haven't noticed any sort of changes like that, but I definitely massively have noticed, I'd say in the last sort of 6 months or a year, just feeling feeling more fatigued, and just not some sessions are just like, I'm pushing really, I feel like I'm pushing really hard, and I just, that speed's just not coming, or that power is just not coming, or something's just not right, and then I feel absolutely exhausted more, you know. So And I think that's the thing, as you say, for someone when it's just their life and they can train and then recover or sleep or whatever, but when you're juggling everything, when normal life goes on and you're still working and blah, 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 you know, you haven't got that time to rest and recover. But I've realized how important it is to try and create that as much as you can. But no, I think there has been, you know, there is a change. There's a change in definitely a change in hormones for me. I think I'm in the very early stages, probably perimenopause.
Yeah.
And thank goodness it's being talked about, because as you say, you know, everything for me is still regular. There's no real change. But for me, I recently found out that I was anemic for months. I've been walking around anemic for about 6 months, and doctors, I don't really know, they were saying, I don't know how the heck you've been walking around. So I was hugely iron deficient, but also I'm understanding as well that drop in estrogen levels hugely affect iron levels. So for, you know, I was yeah. So it was I've had to, you know, make a few changes there to try and really help that. So I feel like I'm at the beginning of that journey, but massively noticed it. And obviously, as a month chatting amongst other athletes, it's a very big topic of conversation.
Oh, great. Okay, so I want to know all the deets. So, because, you know, I've said this a few times on podcast episodes, but when I was working at Fire and teaching a lot of classes and training trainers and doing all the things, obviously starting a business is like stressful enough. I didn't know that I was in perimenopause. I'd never heard of the word. I thought that menopause women were like mid-50s, even like way older than me today. So my understanding I had no understanding, no education, and no one to talk to. So I wouldn't look around me and go, oh, is anyone else feeling like this? Is anyone else feeling as massively exhausted as I am? I can't remember what that person's name is. I've met them 5 times before. And now I'm going to stand up and take a training session. I'm absolutely petrified. So these things were happening for me when we knew each other in Malaysia, and I had never heard of the word. So when you say that women are now talking about it and comparing notes, it just lights me up. And I feel like, mic drop, our work here is done. You know, but so I'm curious, like, what is the discussion between athletes in their mid-40s and beyond?
It's really interesting. I would still say it's not still, but you can see people there's a little bit hesitant sometimes to talk about it. Also, it's difficult, I think, certainly in a race situation. It's not normally until I mean, it's just there's a lot going on, but it's amazing. As soon as someone opens the door a little bit, there's a whole conversation that goes on. So and I think what's very obvious to everyone is it's so personal, and it's so difficult to gauge, isn't it? And you feel like you're on this roller coaster, and you talk about you know, there's sort of you know, there's, you know, suddenly forgetting, and, you know, it's this suddenly going, and like, just, you know, it is the word brain fog. You're like, what is wrong with me? You know, seriously. But no, people do talk about it. And I think actually accepting that I think exactly there's this, that you're not having to be, it hits us at any age and stage, and talking about it and being aware of it is absolutely the game changer. Because, you know, as you say, for you, it must have been really difficult and very lonely, because you know there's a massive change in yourself. To me, who've only just met you, I didn't see any of that. Obviously, of course, you did an absolutely fantastic job of masking all of those feelings. But that's often the case, isn't it? You know, so no, women are very much talking about it. Women are very much starting to take HRT, and I wouldn't say there's this, you know, I think it's still early days of, you know, I think it takes a while to identify what's going on and then make some changes to then feel the difference. But I think, as you say, you know, massively the importance of, as an endurance athlete, the difficulty is the training is long hours, which for those hormonal changes actually, you know, can be exhausting, because actually, you know, we all know the benefits of actually doing a couple of HIIT sessions, or a couple of, you know, the benefit is HIIT and strength or whatever it is, but not overdoing it. But trying to balance that with long, you know, 3 or 4 hour rides, and then you get off your bike and then you've got to go for an hour and a half run. You know, it's a 5, you know, when you're training for, you know, an Ironman, a half Ironman, you're often doing like a training block, which is 4 or 5 hours long, bang, like that. And you are going to have a knock-on effect. But I think it's accepting that you will still fatigue, but not panicking. So it's and that's what I found difficult, is going, am I just knackered from the training set I've just done, or is there something else going on? And I think that's why there's a little bit of a grey area, which I think, but I definitely know that, you know, there is a movement towards women athletes accepting that they do need to address the issue, and talking about it much more openly, and just getting access to the help. But I think talking is fundamental, because every case is different.
Yeah.
You know,
so step one, talking about it, and you know, obviously this is where the podcast started. I just wanted someone to talk to, and I wanted to learn about what was happening and be able to share that conversation. I asked the questions that probably other women are thinking, and I don't have the answers. I'm learning on the job, you know, so, but I've learned a lot. What I've also learned is in the UK there is a lot of conversation around menopause and supporting women across the workplace, and giving them access to education, information, both lifestyle and medical. So it's really ramping up in the UK. New Zealand's kind of following along. But I think, you know, you're in the nirvana for menopause support right now.
It's amazing. It is.
So as far as athletes, and so one of the things I noticed, it's that HRT versus healthy lifestyle things. And I found, you know, I always have the foundations of a healthy lifestyle first, as you would, Claire. So you know that that moving is essential, that great nutrition for fuel is important. We literally can't function without those two. Sleep, rest, recovery, like really paying attention to how your body's feeling now versus being able to smash it out day after day after day. Getting, you know, high performance out of maybe backing up sometimes, but also stress management and talking our own community, right? So those for me are the pillars of managing menopause symptoms. But even with those pillars being the foundation, I had to tap into HRT. I don't even want to say I had to.
Exactly.
I explored, because I'm making it sound like, oh, I couldn't cut it because I couldn't do it naturally. I'm just like, oh, hey, what is this thing, and is it going to work for me? So I always see things as, well, why don't I just give it a shot and let's see what happens? There are definitely things that I can't live every day with because I'm only 50. You know, I was thinking that 2 years ago. And those things were brain fog, sore joints, and demotivation, like no motivation to do very much, which is so crazy for me. So I explored HRT, spoke to the experts, which were actually in the UK, and managed to sort it out for myself. So I've been on HRT maybe just over a year now. How is the conversation for fitness people and athletes in the UK? Like, are you hearing that as well? Are people recommending, hey, why don't you try it? It could be a game changer for you. Where do you sit with that?
I think it's absolutely, there's an absolute open dialogue. People saying exactly like you've said, you know, I felt like this and I've tried this and it's made a difference, you know. So I think there's 100% agree. I think if you're into, you know, there's lifestyle things you can do, which we're all trying our best to do, but then sometimes it needs another kick, and it's a fact, right? So if there's a change in a drop in, you know, estrogen or whatever, it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's a fact, you know, it's what's going on, and actually helping top it up or whatever, through gels, or it's gonna help. So no, I think, you know, absolutely, you said in the UK it's very talked about, and which is just amazing. So people are very much you know, in the racing community, or saying, I've tried this, have you tried that, or have you thought about doing this? And I still think it just still goes back to a little bit of trying to find the balance between, am I just really tired from the actual training, or is there a change? And I think that's where you just have to go, well, let's try it, And if I feel I'm a little bit back to my old self again, then and as you say, there are so many symptoms to look out for. And it's like, I mean, it's sort of, I'm seeing absolute rage, and absolute rage, or just something you're just not feeling yourself. But I'm really encouraged that it's absolutely on the table, and being talked about, and nothing to be, nothing to hide, or feel like you've got to, nothing to feel like, or actually just, it's not something that I think, as you say, it's not something just for you in your 50s. It can affect people and much earlier. But which is sort of, as you said before, we all had these learnings about it. We just feel like, no, it can't be that. I'm too young. But those changes do happen at any stage, frankly.
Yeah, so I've since learned that you can start perimenopause from your 30s, and some women may experience it even earlier. So the fact that we kind of hit our 40s and had those 40th birthday parties and like, yeah, this is awesome, I'm looking and feeling my best. You get it, a typical woman will get, or the average age of entering perimenopause is 47, which I was like bang on 47 in retrospect when I think back when the symptoms first started. But I think that a lot of women that I'm meeting and talking to now, it's a lot sooner. They're becoming more aware. So one of the very first symptoms will be your periods becoming heavier, longer, and more painful, even if you're still regular. And then the second symptom, and we're highlighting it this week in New Zealand under Mental Health Awareness Week, is actually anxiety. So that's one of the top symptoms that a woman might go to their GP or their healthcare provider. They'll go and they'll say something without understanding it's a perimenopause symptom. I'm just not feeling myself. I feel mildly depressed and anxious. And I think that should raise a red flag to a doctor if the woman is mid-40s, periods a little bit erratic, and they go, okay, well, here we go. This is what you need to know. And I just think it actually lightens the load. Instead of you feeling like, I'm depressed and I'm going crazy, because that's the most common feedback that doctors hear.
I know.
Which is really 100%. Freaking sad, right?
No, I know it is. And and it's sometimes, it's, and you feel like, you sometimes feel like you're going mad. But it's interesting what you highlighted there about the change. So I'm 46, but that is that. So the change, the heavy periods and the painful periods were the one of the major symptoms for me. And actually we've then found out that's probably one of the reasons, one of the main reasons I became so anemic. So I was literally such heavy periods. So we've I'm trying the Marina coil now to try and deal with that. There was definitely a huge link that, again, it's taken me nearly a year or 6 months to try and work all of these things out, but that was the first thing that I've noticed.
Hey, that's awesome, Claire, because the Mirena should help to stabilize, but also it's going to give you a nice slow dose of progesterone, which is that hormone that makes you feel kind of nice and relaxed.
Exactly.
Helps with your sleep a little bit. But so once your estrogen does the roller coaster, that's when you'll know. This is perimenopause. And the cool thing is that you know way more than I ever did at that point. So, and now we don't have to worry or have fear, because there's fear in the unknown. There's empowerment and education, right?
No, absolutely, there really is. And I just think it's a game changer, it really is. And I was definitely speaking to friends or my sister, or conversations that they were like, actually, I think you should just go and have a conversation and get it checked out. And I think it was just all the huge iron deficiencies and stuff suddenly were like, hang about, something's going on here. So I feel like I'm getting on top of it literally just in the last couple of months, which is great.
Hey, Claire, to wrap up the conversation, it's just been so good. You have some races coming up. We'd like to hear, what have you got planned? When do you come to New Zealand? Because I sent you those photos of Lake Taupo. That you were supposed to come to New New Zealand for the Ironman. It got cancelled because it was COVID, and now I'm like, every time I drive past Taupo, which is on the way to see my daughter who's at boarding school as well, I drive past, I always think of you.
Oh, honestly, so that was the Ironman World Champs that was due to be in Taupo a couple of years ago. I was so excited about that. Everyone was like, it was, really excited about that. So that moved. So that was the World Championships a couple of years ago. They moved it to Utah, St. George last year. So I managed to qualify again, moved it to there, all fully trained up, all ready to go. And then I couldn't fly from the UK. They weren't allowing people to fly from there. So they've moved it. Actually, I competed in Dubai 70.3 Ironman this year and qualified, and actually happens to be there again. So the plan is to try, is obviously that's in end of October. I've also got another Ironman World Championships in Finland next year. So those are the Ironman stuff, and I'll probably do different races in between. And I've got another, so I've done 3 races for Team GB this year, and I've got one more left, which is in the end of November, which is the World Championships finals actually in Abu Dhabi. So that'll be
home ground, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's literally. I'm so excited. It's going to be like it's really great. I'm popping out to Dubai in October with the boys. That'd be good to, it's because actually just getting used to the heat again, constantly nipping out. But so I've got a couple more races still to go this year. And I've already qualified for 4 races next year. So I've got my Team GB slots for next year and my Ironman World Champs. So it's a really nice feeling when you've grafted away over the sump, particularly in the sort of middle of the year, and then you can say, right, got my slots now. I just obviously need to keep that training going, need to keep well and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like I've got a nice feeling at the moment. I've got a nice year ahead, and obviously in between those races next year, I need to race to qualify for the year after. But that's a choice. That's you can see how things go at that stage. So
yeah, amazing.
I just feel very grateful that my body's able to do it. I'm able to do it. And I think my biggest thing, I would say is just get out there and just try anything and live every day like it's your last, grab every opportunity that comes your way. And there are definitely days when you feel like, balls to the whole lot of it. I'm going to sit in a cupboard and eat chocolate all day. But, it's just like it. But, it is then it's riding those moments out and knowing that you're not alone having those moments, and just, get out there. And it's just amazing that we have these great communities and great friends and wonderful women that we can all support each other. So.
Yeah, I love it so much. I will look forward to hearing that they will have an Ironman in Taupo, and I'll be on at you to get here, whether it's on your training list or not. I'm like, come on, babe, you've got to do this. It's so amazing there.
Honestly, the irony was, I literally went, so the few months before it was due to happen, I went down, I was down there on a family trip. We did an amazing trip all around New Zealand. And so I stood on the edge of the lake, looking out. I saw the bike course, saw the run course. It's the most perfect location. It's the one that everyone is desperate to get located back there again. So I think there's a big campaign to try and get them to get to host again, because it's a beautiful country. I've spent a long time in New Zealand. I absolutely adore that place. And I just think it would be wonderful. I even had my accommodation booked. We'd all booked our house, with everything. So we will get there, definitely.
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be at the finish line with champagne and...
Absolutely. Many bottles of champagne.
Plenty.
Yeah.
Maybe some white Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand, because we both really enjoyed that. So...
Yeah, and still do.
And still do,
And still do. My goodness me, yes. Yeah. That's another thing we bonded over.
And books.
Yeah, true, yes.